In this video, I'll show you how to make this excellent fish pie based on a Delia Smith recipe for a luxury fish pie. Now the ingredients that you need for this dish is some butter and some plain flour, from which you're going to make a sauce. I've made some fish stock from some skeletons I got from my local fishmonger, but you don't really need to do that. You could just use a fish stock cube or a pot like this one from Knorr, which I find really good. I'm going to use that in my own fish stock to kind of supercharge it. You also need some potatoes for the topping. There's 800 grams of Desiree potatoes in here. They have been boiled for 8 minutes. I don't want them to be completely boiled because the topping is going to be a rosti topping where the potatoes are almost raw and grated and cooked in the oven. In the sauce that I'm going to make, there are going to be 2 herbs, some dill and some parsley and some chopped gherkins. I like to use the gherkins in the sweet vinegar. The topping, there's going to be 50 grams of cheddar cheese and a few capers. Now in Delia's recipe, she suggests using halibut as the main fish in the dish. Halibut is really very nice in the pie, but it's rather expensive, and I have replaced it with some filleted haddock. There are 700 grams here. I'm going to cut it up now and put it into the pie dishes. I have 2 of these. Each dish is going to provide 2 substantial servings. I'll take this one, cut it up into fairly large chunks. Just try to distribute it fairly evenly between the 2 dishes. The next luxury item are scallops. Now these are quite expensive, but I do recommend that you do use the scallops because they impart a really nice flavour to the pie. Now that's what the scallop should look like, minus this little muscle on the side. When you put it into the pie, so we want all these scallops to look just like that. What you have to do is remove this little pink piece, which is the roe. If you just peel it back, you'll get to this muscle, which is really not very nice to eat, and you should peel that off and dispose of it. There are 300 grams of scallops here. It's probably better to buy them by weight than by number, but ideally you want 8 scallops, so that there will be 2 in each serving. If you buy them by the number, then you may end up with 8 very large, very expensive scallops. I find that 300 grams usually works out pretty well. Okay, there we have the scallops completed, and there's 10 of them here. So let's just take the biggest ones and put them into the 4 corners of the pie. And there's 2 left. You could slice these up between the 4 pies, but it's probably better just to put them in one of the 2 pies. Just make sure you get one of those when you're serving it. The final fish ingredient is a prawn. These are large tiger prawns. They're raw. I've purchased them with the head off. Sometimes they're available with the head off, sometimes the head is on. Removing the head is extremely simple, so it doesn't really matter which way you buy them. Now you have to prepare the prawn by removing the shell. So you start at the tail end and break off the tail section. Just pull it away and then just lift the rest of the shell comes away very easily. Now some people think that the prawn is ready to be cooked at this stage. I don't, because down the back of the prawn there is an intestinal tract, and I like to cut it open and remove it, because after all, that's the prawn's last meal. Whatever this prawn was eating, it was red. And dispose of that. That's what the prawn should look like when you put it into the pie. This time the intestinal tract is clearly black in colour. Makes you think it's even more important that you get rid of it. So there we have 8 prawns. All you have to do with these is divide them evenly between the 2 pies. There we have the fish part of the pie completed, ready for the sauce to be added. Now I've already melted 50 grams of butter in this pan. I'm just going to reheat it. While that's happening, I'll show you what I've done with the fish stock. I've strained it into this jug, about 400 to 500 litres, and I've added in and stirred in the Knorr fish pot, making sure that it's pretty well dissolved. To that I'm going to add about half the quantity of white wine. We like to use Gavi, it's a very nice wine, and we'll just pour it in now. There we are. That's the stock prepared. So the butter is melted. I'm going to add 50 grams of flour and give it a good stir to make a roux. And we just let that cook out over a medium gas for about a minute, being careful not to burn it. Then we'll start to add the stock, about a third to start with. Give it a good stir. It will thicken. Just work any lumps out of it. And add another third of the stock. And stir that gently at first, otherwise you'll make a right mess. Once the stock's been amalgamated, you can stir it a little bit more vigorously. And then add the last of the stock. And return it to the gas. And while that's thickening, I'll show you that I've chopped up about 2 tablespoons of the dill and about 2 tablespoons of the parsley. I like to use plenty of dill, it's a lovely herb. And we also need some sliced gherkins. These are quite big, so 4 will be enough. Just slice that thinly. Then we'll add that to the sauce shortly. Now the sauce is thickened nicely, and we can add the dill and the parsley. And the chopped gherkins. Stir that in. I think I might have missed this ingredient earlier. We need 2 tablespoons of creme fraiche. I like to use the half-fat variety. And I like to be generous. And stir that in. Now the slightly tricky bit here is to divide this sauce evenly between the 2 pies. It's not really critical, but it's nice to try and get it pretty evenly divided. And we don't want to waste any, so we'll give the pot a good scrape. And just spread it to cover the fish. Then we'll just move that to the back of the surface and prepare the topping. First I'm going to grate 50 grams of cheddar cheese. This is coal-faced cheddar. It's available in our village. It's very nice cheddar, but any strong cheddar will do. And we'll come back to that later. Now we come to potatoes. I'll remind you that these were boiled for about 8 minutes so that they're still pretty firm, but I should be able to remove the skin fairly easily. Okay, well now I've taken the skin off the potatoes and I'm going to proceed to make the topping. 3 potatoes there and 3 potatoes there. And now the rather messy process of grating them. Now I told you earlier that these potatoes had been boiled for 8 minutes. This is to make sure that the skin comes off pretty easily, but that the potatoes still hold their shape and make this kind of rusty topping. And you just lay that on top of the pie. Since the pies will be in the oven for about 30 to 35 minutes, you can be assured that the potato will be fully cooked by the time you take the pies out. There we are. Messy process, but well worth the trouble. Move on to the other pie. When the fish is covered, just gently press the potato down. Now we're approaching the finishing line. Take your 50 grams of grated cheddar cheese and distribute it as evenly as you can over the 2 pies. And last but not least, we need about a tablespoon of capers. Just sprinkle these around the top of each pie. And there we have Les Leckie's take on Delia Smith's luxury fish pie, ready to go into the oven, which has been preheated to 200 degrees C. Fish will be in the oven for about 30 to 35 minutes until the cheese is slightly browned. And here we have the finished product ready to be plated up with some broccoli and peas. Service.